Let's talk about branding, specifically brand boards. My name is Kelsey, I'm a graphic designer, and today we're going to be diving all into brand boards and how I've used them to help my past clients with their visual identity and just creating a strong overall creative look when it comes to their brand. We're going to dive into what is a brand board, how to create one, all the different assets that I use to do it, and how you can make the most of it to apply it to your brand and how it's achievable for anyone to use within their business. I think this is such a key component, and I'm so excited that you're here. I'm so excited to help you with it, and I'm so excited just to dive in. If you have any questions along the way, please feel free to comment them down below, message me over on Instagram, or let's just go ahead and get started. A brand board is a sense of a condensed style guide that gives a brief look into your creative direction when it comes to your branding. It captures the look and feel of your brand and gives a quick look at what your logos are, what your colors are, and what your typography is. And it's just great to hand off to someone that might be working on your brand, a part of your team, or just someone that you need to have your creative assets available for. It's perfect to have if you're just starting out your brand, maybe you're expanding your brand, or you just have a smaller budget to work with to get started. Brand boards are perfect for you. Today, I'm going to be diving through a past example of mine who came to me with just a logo mainly for their brand set. They had some colors, but they were kind of not set on their primary or secondary colors. And so we used a brand board to create a strong visual front and bring their branding to the next level. I'm going to share with you along the way how I applied each of the steps to this brand so that you can see the visual representative with it and how you can do the same thing for your brand. When it comes to creating the brand board, I typically create mine in Adobe Illustrator. That is what I'm most comfortable with, but you can really do it in whatever program you have access to. You could do it in Canva, you could do it in Adobe XD, you could do it in Figma. Just again, whatever you have access to and is available to use for your brand. As mentioned, as we walk through each stage, I will be sharing how it applied to my past client, which was an online counseling service provider, and just give you the full visual look and feel on how we achieved each step along the way. Let's go ahead and get started with the first step then. A brand foundation is something that we use in any aspect of creating a brand visual identity, whether it's for a brand board or it's for a brand style guide. It just really depends on the in-depth detail that we will do. For a brand board, it is a bit more simplified. We are just looking at the target audience so that we can apply it to your brand. We're looking at the look and feel you want to have with your branding. We're looking at the mission and value of your company and your unique selling proposition. This is all great because it helps you get into the mindset of the consumer, because all of your creative assets should apply to that consumer and thinking about your target audience, and again, just help you achieve your overall long-term, short-term business goals and dreams for your brand. For my client example, this client had an online counseling firm and they specialized in women's issues and maternal health and just overall having a positive experience for women when it came to their mental health and that relationship that they have. We're thinking a lot about females that are around the age of 30 to 40, and again, just thinking about their relationships with their family and how that looks. A lot of times when I'm thinking of the target audience, I will list those different details out and I will make a persona of the person so that I can get a clear visual of them. So say we created Sally, who lives in Chicago, because that is one of the areas that my counseling service provider supported, and they were struggling with having their first child and they were experiencing a lot of postpartum experiences, which had them struggling with going back to work as a nurse. And again, they were more so middle class and overall looking at all their different details in their life.
Falling to pieces in my room. Are you coming over? That's cool.
A mood direction is what I create for a lot of my content. A mood direction is great for your brand to create a strong look and feel of how we want the overall brand to be. It gives that identification on how your emotions should feel when you look at a brand. So for this client of mine, her name Well Roots Counseling, and for Well Roots Counseling, she wanted a lighter, sophisticated, yet very approachable look. Again, we were thinking about mental health. So on her mood board, I was adding a lot of different brand marks since we would be expanding her brand. She came to me with one logo that was her primary logo, but she didn't have any other assets beyond that. So I was looking at how we could expand on her logo, different brand marks that we could add to it, how we wanted different color palettes to look, and just overall imagery that would feel like the vibe of Well Roots Counseling. Eventually we settled on this mood board, which was a great starting point, and I could use that for expanding her brand marks.
I could use a little something to do.
When it comes to brand marks, we do 3 to 4 brand marks that I create. Again, I like there to be a set on a brand board and just overall within your brand assets. This helps because you need a logo or a brand mark to work in so many different settings, and you need to have that versatility. So typically I create a monogram mark, I create a word mark, I create a primary mark, we'll create an icon or a secondary mark. And between that, there's a good asset set that can be utilized on different brand materials. For this branding, we were expanding upon their circle brand mark and seeing how else it could be applied. So eventually we ended up landing on a longer word mark aspect that we put at the top of her brand board. We landed on a more vertical version that could also be considered her word mark that had her different names of her business in a stacked variation. We had her main logo that came to us, so that would be her primary brand mark. And then we also had a monogram mark, so that way she could use that over on Instagram if she wanted to, just at the end of her website, just in little instances, again, to tie it back to Well Roots Counseling.
We could go outside, take a little ride if you want to. That's cool.
For Well Roots Counseling, we had a general color direction, but it was about 10 colors that were all condensed together, and there wasn't a hierarchy on when to use what. So we helped recreate and look at those colors that were being used. Again, we're thinking about the target audience because we are working with primarily females, but we also will work with some teens and we will work with some couples. So it needed to be not too feminine, but also have a touch of the feminine side. So we identified 5 different colors that would be of the primary set, added those onto the mood board, and made that the main visual capture on the brand board. And then we also added in each of their hex colors and gave a name to the colorway so that we could begin to visualize how to utilize that, and added the RGB and also the CMYK colorways so that it could be accessed for whoever gets this brand board. Then we also added secondary colors. There were 4 of these that were added into the brand board, and this was to provide support so that there were more colors being utilized besides this 5 that were in the main color set. And these were a bit more, I would say, colorful. They weren't as neutral as the primary colors are. So again, these could be used as different components to really call and support the primary brand colors. We added those onto the brand board, and really that just wraps up the brand board.
I did what I was supposed to. There's nothing left for me to.
The third asset that you can add to a brand board, and I have done this for past clients, is typography. This client that I was working with, she actually already had her type direction set, so that wasn't something that we were looking at revisiting. But a lot of times typography will be utilized in brand boards to give that visual reference for different individuals that are going to be using the brand board or have access to it, or just to have all those main components of your branding in one spot.
So now I'm walking out my head through open windows.
Lastly, here is that look at the full brand board. You see the breakdown of the 3 to 4 logos. So really we had 4 brand marks that we visualized here, and then also the breakdown of the two different color sets. So we have primary and secondary. Overall, this brand direction really helped to set the foundation and help to utilize already started brand assets to create a stronger, more cohesive look to use as you go forward. I would use this as a temporary solution because eventually you do want a full-fledged style guide that really helps create the foundation of your branding. And in a style guide, you will include things like different patterns or textures that will support your branding and just overall assets on how to apply the visual look to different scenarios and just a more in-depth look at your brand. But again, I think a brand board is a great starting place to be in. These are really fun to create, and it's just really great to see a brand creative direction all in one place. And that's it. I hope this video helped you. I know I talked about a lot of higher level things, like we could dive deeper into really each step on how to create the logo, how to decide on colorways, how to create your brand foundation. If you are interested in any of those, feel free to comment them down below and I will prioritize creating videos on different topics of those. Otherwise, that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.
'Cause that's what I feel like.